Is it my turn to lead in?
I don't even know. It can be both of ours.
Hi.
We just say it in unison. Is
Ready?
that right?
One,
Welcome
two.
to the... Oh, shit, I thought you were going to say ready, go. Okay.
Welcome to the Conscious Cowboys podcast, everybody. This is Tess and Madison. We haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
Jesus. I guess it's been a long time since I've led the intro, so that makes sense.
I don't say Tess and Madison.
Yeah. Today we're talking about happiness, which we're wearing dark colors if you're watching. So I think that's a funny juxtaposition there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we also just don't even own bright colors.
No.
So.
But we're talking about happiness today because it seems like it's something that is like hard to hold on to. In a sense, like I feel like we're generally very happy people.
Yeah.
But then I find myself slipping out of it and like really deeply thinking about my life in ways that aren't necessarily productive. And this week was a little bit of a rougher week, I would say, in the household.
Yeah. I mean, if I am going back, like to have a specific instance, is that last week, Tess and I were both on our period, which I literally love when that happens, like that we sync up. I think it's really special and cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know what day it was of mine, maybe like day 3 or something. And I just was not having a good day. I went to hot yoga and I probably shouldn't have. And I was just tired. And I was just could not stop crying that day. Like it was just a sad day. And I knew it was bad when I was like reading in my room. And then Tess came in and she was like, "Are you okay?" And then she like sat on my back because I was like lying on my stomach. And then I just like started crying. And I was like, "I'm not." And then, yeah, she was just like rubbing my back and I was like, "Oh, that's so nice." Like sister, so cute. And after that, I feel like I had like a few days where it was just like in a funk where I was just like, all right, I need to be alone and just figure stuff out, because the feeling that I had, like why I felt so sad, how I could describe it to Tess, is that I like felt like a deep alone feeling, like on a soul level, which I don't even know how to explain that or like articulate that in our human language, or that's just like how I felt. And I'm coming out of it now, but that is like what sparked this conversation. And we also like talk about happiness and that kind of stuff, like positive thinking all the time. But that was like the main event where we were like, maybe let's just do an episode about it. Mm-hmm. So here we are. Doing that.
Thanks for being willing to participate in this.
Yeah, of course.
To me, it's like, okay, you have to feel the range of human emotion, right? Like we all have our highs and our lows, and that's fine. I don't want to come across of like, well, we always have to be happy, because that's not it at all.
Yeah, no, I like feeling like I want to feel the range of human emotion. Like I think that that's really is productive. Like that's like a gift that us humans have, I think.
I would agree, because it really deepens your sense of like yourself and the world around you and what a high really is and what a low really is. So I think that that's important. But I always get caught in the like, well, it doesn't feel good. And I don't like, I feel like it has a negative effect on everything in my life. Like it strains my relationships. It strains my relationship with myself. It feels so heavy in my body. I don't want to experience it for longer than I need to. And so that's where I get like, I want to hone in on this of my life, of when I start to feel off, I want to be able to recognize, okay, what do I need to learn from this? Like, what's the root of this feeling? Where can I make shifts happen? Sometimes there's no action item. Sometimes there is. But it's like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And then I just don't want to sit in it. I want to move forward, and I want to be able to enjoy the people around me and myself and my life, because we talk about this a lot. I don't even know if we really mention it on the podcast, but like truly how unpredictable and short life can be. And I would be really sad like if something major happened to anyone in my life that I love, and like that's how it ended, was like me on a not so happy note with them. Like I want to feel like I'm pouring happiness and love into people and myself as much as I can. And then if I get stuck in this rut, even if it's like just a few days, I'm like, oh, like this doesn't feel like a good use of my time. Like I want to keep it good. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. I feel like I just have like a lot of thoughts that are flooding in, because there's like a lot of areas where I could take all of this, because I feel like yes to a lot of what you're saying. And then like, not that you don't agree with what I'm about to say, but I am also someone who likes to like sit in the sadness or maybe not so happy feelings sometimes, because I think that they can be productive sometimes because it helps me to figure it out versus saying like, all right, like on to the next, like, fuck, I got to be happy for my people. But like, even if I'm not feeling happy and like, if something bad were to happen on a day where I'm not feeling happy, like hopefully my people still feel love from me,
Yeah.
you know, like, and I don't want to feel bad about feeling sad just so that my people are happy, you know?
Yeah.
And not that you're saying that, but those are just my thoughts.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, somewhere I'm going to take this next is someone that I followed for quite a few years on social media. I never got the chance to meet him in person, but his name's Lion Heron. He's a Malibu local. He had almost a lifelong battle with cancer. And his whole thing between like him and his mom and just what they radiated from their beings is positive mental attitude. Like Pima, it's always like, you can't necessarily change your circumstances, but how can you change your experience throughout those? And how can you sit with these feelings and use them in a positive way and like help impact the world and even just your little like local microclimate. And that stuff is really inspiring to me because I feel like everything is going to like there, you don't know what's coming your way. And you can sit there and fucking dwell on it and be negative about it. And I'm not saying this is you. I'm just saying, like, for me, I can sit there and like really steep in my shit, or I can just be like, okay, all I can do here and now is just try to enjoy the present moment, be with what is, and then let whatever happens next come.
Yeah. So I would definitely agree with that too. I think like when I say that I like sit in my sadness or I sit in, I guess, like not so happy feelings or whatever you want to call it, is that I need those and like the lessons that I learn from those tough feelings. And then I can like take them on and be that like happiness and have that positive mental attitude for people.
I understand from what I'm gathering from you, it's like you don't just want to skim over the not so great feelings because you're not going to take anything away from it, right? Like you don't want to shove it under the rug and pretend like nothing's wrong.
Yeah, because I feel like when I do shove it under the rug, like that is actually what promotes those feelings of like darkness.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say is that like when I was explaining the initial story of this is like when I'm on my period, I was telling Tess the other day is I feel like things are really illuminated for me. Like there's no like shield over what's going on in my life. Like it's like right in front of me and I'm like, okay, so I haven't been dealing with this for the last like 3 months, maybe for the last like 22 days. And now I'm on my period and I can't not deal with it. So like, let's get to work right now. And yeah, that's where I was the last 3 days.
Yeah. And I think that, okay, so being on your period, having heightened emotions, heightened like mood changes, that's one thing. For me, another thing is like, sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with where I'm at in my cycle or anything like that. Sometimes I'm pulling myself away from enjoying my life because I'm so focused on what's ahead and I'm trying so hard to make that happen that I'm not really like living in this time.
Yes.
And I think you and I both really, we do this. This is our like thing is we're focused. And we have really high hopes and dreams. And then we get hard on ourselves if we are enjoying the present moment too much because it feels like you're not working hard enough to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I feel that on like a deep level that would even be hard to explain. But I feel like our pursuit for more sometimes bites us in the ass.
Yes.
In that way.
Deeply.
Yeah. Because sometimes, yeah, that's really great that we're ambitious. But then when we're just always wanting more and like right now isn't as satisfying as like whatever that more may be, then we get bummed out.
Yeah. Or I play with this theory that, okay, you might have been, okay, I'm trying to really formulate this thought. I've talked about this with you the other day. I'm very visual. If you have listened to the podcast for a while, you understand this. Like I see it in my head of like, there's two different paths, both going the same direction. And one path I can be happy and go with the flow and let things come to me. And when I'm on that like higher vibe, I interact with those things or I line up with those things better. And I'm going to get to that goal no matter what. The other way is me being really critical of everything that I'm doing, really hard on myself, and I'm still going to get there, but I like beat myself up the whole way. And that's how I got to the path of success. So like one is me just stepping to the side, aligning myself with like the vision and seeing what happens. And the other is like me berating myself the whole time because I'm thinking, well, hard work is what's going to make it happen. And yeah, hard work makes stuff happen, but so does being energetically magnetizing. Like you want to attract this stuff into your life. So how are you going to get it? Are you going to be like mean to yourself and hope that it comes your way? Those are my thoughts on it of like, I just feel like they're probably both going to go the same direction. Which path would I enjoy more?
Yeah, that's true. And I think that like on some days my answer to that would be different on what path I enjoy more, because sometimes like it's not like berating myself, and I don't talk that meanly to myself of like, oh, you fucking suck. Like I never say that about myself, honestly, ever. But I have feelings of like maybe I'm disappointed in myself some days, and maybe that causes me to like push myself a little harder, which I like that. But then I need to weave in also the ebb and flow of life of like, all right, let's just ease into this and try to let go the best that you can and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times my unhappiness comes from my need and desire to control things in my life, like every little thing, control. And that's just, it serves me sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. I need to know when it doesn't, like recognize that and be like, all right, today we're just going to flow and see what happens. Like literally surrender. You know what to do. Just relax. And so.
Yeah. And when I hear how you're responding to me, that makes me think that I'm not doing a good enough job of recognizing that it's not so black and white. Like the paths don't run parallel all the time. They weave in and out, and you might jump from one path to the next. Like I'm very aware that it's not cut and dry, and you can't just choose one path and be like, okay, I'm going to choose the path of least resistance where I'm just happy and energetic and everything flows to me. And look, I'm at my goals. That's not always the way it goes. And so I'm not trying to paint that picture, but I just feel like when I get sucked into that path where I'm like harder on myself and I'm like, what are you doing to really get to your goals? And you want that,
like we're not doing enough for the podcast. Like you need to be making more money.
And it's like, okay, so then you associate having to like really work super hard and it not being enjoyable with your passion and your dream, and then you lose your love for it, and then you show up and you're not necessarily enjoying the process. So how is that going to attract what you're looking for?
Prosperity or anything. Yeah, I know. I totally agree with that. And we have like our podcast as an example because sometimes it is really difficult to record, and we've been better at like not putting as much pressure on ourselves to do it, even though we know we're going to do it. So in the end, we end up doing it. But I feel like we just put pressure like on the podcast and everything that goes with it. And then it causes us to not be stoked along the process, you know?
Yeah.
Like we're wanting too much out of it. And when we're not being patient, then we get sad and then we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
then
like,
you're like,
just enjoy this time. Like how special it is that we get to sit on our couch in our apartment, like in between working and like talk to each other about things that we care about.
Okay, and then let's just be really materialistic for a second and just really blunt about this stuff, right? Because we all, whether you admit this or not, like we all kind of want greater for ourselves, right? Like you kind of envision this lush life. Like, okay, we have this beautiful area that's really close by to where we live. It's called Rancho Santa Fe. Google it. You'll lose your mind. These gorgeous ranch properties with like these custom built homes. And you look, and of course you're like, God, wouldn't that be cool for myself? Like, I would love
I think
that.
we would enjoy that.
Yeah, that would be tight.
Yeah.
And so you're driving through and you like really try to envision this and you're like, hey, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then you look at where you're at now. And
which
you're
is,
like,
to be fair, so amazing as well. Like we both know, we talk about how lucky we are and it's really great.
But you look at where you're at now and you just say, well, how does this, if I draw this trajectory out, how does this line me up with my ultimate dream? Can I get there with the path that I'm on? And I don't know.
Yeah, I
Maybe,
don't know.
but so many variables change.
It's true.
In
And
the
then,
path.
yeah. And then I start getting down on myself because I'm like, holy shit. Like, I have all of these levels I need to hit before I get to the compound in Rancho Santa Fe. But then I also counter that and I think, well, how do I know I need to do all of those steps? Like, it could just be 2 steps away. And it doesn't have to be as hard as I think it is.
Mm-hmm. And so coming back to like what pulls me out of the happiness is thinking way too much about all of these factors. Mm-hmm. Thinking about, oh, what steps do I need to take to get here? I mean, yeah, that's a pretty surefire way to get there of planning out how to execute the plan.
Right.
But you can't control a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So what are you just going to be hard on yourself if X, Y, and Z never happens? Like, okay, we talk about this very frankly. If the podcast never becomes our sole point of income, which is a dream of ours, right? To just be able to do this and build a bigger community and like just go even deeper on this path. If that never happens, are we just never going to be happy?
Yeah. Are we going to say that this was for nothing and that it was stupid?
Like, will it never be enough for
Right.
us because that one dream didn't come true? I mean, how else can dreams come true? What ways can this whole thing serve us so that we feel fulfilled? And if that happens, then hell yeah, that was a bonus. Look at
Right.
us, cherry on top.
Right. Because I know Tess and I can both advocate for the fact that even if that doesn't happen, like this has been worth it for sure, like without a doubt, for everything that we've gotten from it.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to get from it. So, yeah.
But then you think about your dreams, right? And you're like, okay, well, if I don't hit that, am I going to feel like I didn't try hard enough? I didn't push myself? Like, was I just cruising when I could have been?
And some days I do think that.
So it's this turmoil.
It is. It's like it. And then I go back to just like weaving in the ebb and flow of like releasing control, but then having a little bit planning, but also letting things flow as much as possible.
I know. It's like this whole conversation I have in my head a lot of trying to see those two paths and being like, well, you have to have some element of drive and control, but then you also have to have some element of relaxing and just enjoying what you have now because it's never going to be the same. And honestly, us 3 years ago would look at this and be like, that's so tight what you did all that.
Mm-hmm.
You were that consistent. You moved, you did this, like all of these things. Like, what?
Yeah, it's true.
And so if you're so focused on what's ahead that you're not stopping to recognize like, oh shit, this is actually pretty tight, which we do. I'm not saying we don't. That's, I feel like, where you're going to get even more lost because nothing's good enough now. Everything is set for the future. And again, if you don't hit those marks, you're going to feel like such a loser.
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Yeah, I know. I have these conversations with myself too. So sometimes like I think a really practical piece of advice, because I do this like on a daily basis almost, is just if I'm like sitting someplace and I start to get in my head or like I want to quickly like, I don't know, I'm in between work and I should go on Instagram because I'm feeling like some sort of way. I'm like, okay, let's stop for a second. We don't need to go on Instagram. We don't need to like fill our mind with something that's going to like give us immediate excitement. Like let's just sit here. And I'm going to look at my room or wherever I'm sitting and at some walls, like at my hands, just so I can be like fully present in the moment and be like, okay, I'm going to remember these times. Even if I'm having bad days and I'm on my period and I'm sad and I'm crying, like these are still really great days and look at all that I have. Like I'm so lucky. And even this body, I'm lucky. Like I have to like feel my hands or like my legs sometimes just to remind myself like we're here and this is pretty great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I saw two things on Instagram that I think are worth mentioning. One was a clip from a podcast episode, the Rich Roll podcast, which Madison listens to all the time. I don't know.
Love him.
Yeah. I don't know the guest's name, but it was like the most recent episode. We can try to link it for you guys in the show notes. It's
I'm like, I think I have it up.
Yeah. It's about mindfulness.
Dr. Ellen Langer.
Okay. And she just had a quick quote that they posted on Instagram of, I struggle with this a lot too, is like decision making, because I'm someone who thinks like, well, if I had chosen this, then X, Y, and Z. Like you kind of picture, oh, well, maybe it would have been better than what I chose. And so it kind of paralyzes you from making any decision at all.
Yes.
And her advice on that was just whatever decision you make that the right decision. Like you don't sit there and think, oh, well, if I had fill in the blank, then fill in the blank. Like you don't assume that that would have been the better alternative. You don't sit there and think, oh, well, multiple realities could exist. You just stick to what you chose and you make it what's right. That was so helpful to me because it's like, you know, you sit there, even if we can go back to this whole like trying to build this podcast analogy, even little decisions we make, you go, well, was that the right decision? Yeah, well, guess what? It's the decision we made, so it's the fucking right decision.
Dude. I mean, that is actually very helpful. And speaking on like thinking black and white, I feel like that is very like practical, solution oriented. That type of advice, like I appreciate at times.
I need it's like a big slap in the face of like, get
out
of your head.
It makes so much sense to just be like, yep, that's the decision you made, and you decided to pick that clip for the podcast and that reel, and that's fine, and that's great, and that's what we did,
and that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
What are you gonna like delete it and try something else? No, just stick with it. There's always tomorrow. There's always something else you can produce. Like just relax.
Right. And also then I just like give thanks to our brains of how like quick wiring they are to like think of the next thing of like, okay, well, if that didn't work, let's try here. Let's go over here. Like, thank God for that, you know? Yeah.
The other was a quote that I saw, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'll have to reshare it on our Instagram. It was just something about being able to, God, what was it exactly?
I know you read it to me yesterday. It did. It was very helpful. For me.
And of course I don't remember
word for word. Do you have your phone?
No, it's in the room. I can go get it. But it was just about being able to like stop trying to make like, it's like about expectations of what reality is, right? Like a key to happiness is not focusing on what you think it should be, and instead just appreciating it for what it is and making the best of it.
Yes. Also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's like a thing flashing on our camera, and I feel like it looks like the battery. But I think that it's recording. I think it's just giving us a warning.
I'm sure it's about to die. Like,
well, so seconds. We'll just keep talking, and then when it dies, we'll just upload what we have. It is sad. We're trying to be better about charging things that we are having.
We charged them.
I don't remember the last time. I think. Okay, we'll charge it after. So anyway. We can keep talking. We're going to keep talking about happiness, but I want to ask, like, what has been making you happy lately? And it can be like to any degree of like surface level to like deep to whatever.
Okay. I think this is a great question because then this is something I can rely on when I'm needing to pull myself out of my bullshit. Okay. One is human connection. That has been so major. And I think like the quality of human connection I've been having. I have been really fortunate to have amazing people surround me, and I just feel like their company, I sit and I appreciate. Like I was telling you the other day, I like look at Philip and I kiss his cheeks because I'm like, you're not even guaranteed to be here tomorrow, and that's so sad and morbid, but that's my reality I'm living in right now. I was just recognizing that everything's temporary, so I'm like, I just have to like soak you in because like you might not be here. Dude, I'll literally cry thinking about it. It's so horrible. But that's been making me really happy, is just appreciating like who I have in my life, because I have dreams of having like all these material things in life, and that's really cool. But ultimately, if that stuff doesn't happen, it's not going to make or break me. What will make or break me is not feeling fulfilled and like surrounded by love and happiness, and like it's the human element that I need, and the health element too.
Yes.
Like if you're not healthy and you're not surrounded by love, then what do you have?
Yeah, health is wealth. Like that is seriously one of the most underrated quotes of all time, because I think that it is so important.
Yeah. And we go back to this stuff all the time, but like being able to just walk and talk and like decompress. We try to do it as often as we can.
Once a day, hopefully.
Hopefully, a lot of times work schedules and stuff like that don't align.
Or training.
This is like fucking today. Winter is so wet. But yeah, I just think like walks and talks, like whether it's I can go on a walk with you, whether I can call my mom, whether I can call one of my other friends, it's like that to me is so important. So it really is coming back to like relying on my community, it seems. There's other things too, like teaching myself how to cook or taking myself out to like go run errands and be alone and kind of like be with my own thoughts. That's been helping. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I just feel like I've been getting inspired a lot by like what I see online, which that's a tricky thing. It's like very on and off for me, of like either sometimes the internet is a great place for me and sometimes it's a really not great place. But I just feel like I've been getting hit with the right knowledge and wisdom where I'm like really taking it in, and it's helping reinforce my kind of beliefs and my thoughts of like how I should be living. Like it's almost like a sign of that was a great thought, cemented, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
What about for you?
I would say that the community aspect, yes. Like for me, that's like a new thing, which I think I've talked on the podcast, but like relying on people, like for a lot of my childhood and even like through my 20s, I was just like, all right, we're going our own path. Like, not that I wanted to be like alone forever and not have any friends, but I just like, when I need to figure things out, I like literally like enclose myself inside. And Tess and I were talking about this yesterday, but it's like I just like really need to self-reflect, and I am not one to like share things with others as much. But as I've gotten older, like I'm seeing how important it is and vital that human connection is. Like that, if it's underrated for anyone, like really look into that, because I think that there excuse me, needs to be work, like needs to be done in that area, because for me it definitely has been over the last like few years. So definitely my people, my family. That's why I want to live on a compound and build multiple houses and live together forever. And on a self-care front, since I am that person who likes to like self-reflect and like be with myself, simply, I really love taking baths recently. And I was telling Tess this yesterday, is like you're sitting in a hot body of water and you're just like naked, and that's okay. Like I just like love it, and you're like allowed to be comfortable and naked, and like I read a book in there and it's like so warm, and I'm like, oh, this is the best thing ever. And you're just like with your book and your thoughts or whatever you're doing. And so that makes me happy. Walking always. And I really have been enjoying yoga lately. Like again, being on my mat and like in my body and feeling very present, and like things come up for you mentally, but then you work through it like through movement. Like I think that that is very special, and I like that a lot. And yeah, I think just like truly taking care of myself has been making myself happy lately. Taking care of myself has been making me really happy, because I think that now more than ever it's coming from a place of love rather than how something is going to make me look like physically, or like look like to others, like present itself to others. So I am proud of that, and that's making me really happy. So yeah. And there are other things, of course. There are a lot of things. I feel like we have really great lives, but those are the most prominent.
Okay. I feel like this should wrap up the episode of like, we talked about what caused like the dissatisfaction, the unhappiness, and then talked about why, and then wrapped it up with ways that we just call it back into ourselves, because that is ultimately what our goal is, right? Just being able to find that neutral ground again.
Yes. Yeah. And also just saying like it's okay to have the range of emotion, and just again saying the same term, just to like ebb and flow with it. And that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. Because also I think to ebb and flow with things is better than being stagnant in any one
absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. I was like, well, yeah, of course. And then again, like you said just now, it's not black and white. Like that's something I feel like earlier when we were just chatting, it was like, oh, am I coming across like it's one or the other? And it's not.
No.
It's all.
I was just simply not that I was like countering anything you said, but I just like wanted to add like a little more of something.
Dude, you can counter me all day.
No, I know, but I never wanted to be like, oh, Tess thinks this way and Madison thinks this way. Because again, I think it's like, again, about us weaving our experiences and thoughts and ideas with each other. And that's what this podcast is about. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
We've had just like really great, meaningful responses to our episodes recently, and I just think that is such drive.
Yes, like you have to say the one, what was it yesterday?
Yeah, we got a text from someone who is just like it's a new figure in our lives, and also like a seemingly very important figure in our lives. Like we really draw from their intelligence and their wisdom.
Yeah, like we were talking about this yesterday. Like there's just like certain people in your life where you're just like, how do we feel so connected, even though we haven't really connected as much like in real life? Like we haven't hung out with them or done anything. We just feel like this deep, like draw to them. Yeah, yeah.
One person we have this with is Maria. Shout out Maria.
Yeah, what's up, baby?
But this person texted us and was like, hey, just caught up on a couple episodes of the Conscious Cowboys and absolutely love you guys. Your friendship is a tonic for the soul.
Oh my God. We literally melted at that. I had the chills.
Really awesome.
I know. Like no one's ever said that.
They say it? No, they do. It's just not worded in that way.
It's true. So then it was just like, like it was like poetry.
Yes. And you know what? It brought me back to my childhood where do you ever read those books, Chicken Soup?
Of
Chicken
course.
Soup for the Soul or something?
Yes. Yeah. Damn, I haven't thought about that in like literally 20 years.
Right?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So anyways, thank you. If you share little bits of love back to us, thank you so much.
That makes us happy.
Yeah. Why we didn't say that?
Yeah, I don't know why, but we're saying it now, so it works out.
Yeah.
And also Tessa said this, I know we said this a lot on the podcast, is like receiving compliments feels really good, obviously, but just hand them out also. You know, like if you could do anything good for the world, that's one thing.
That's a way to change the world.
It
I think
uplifts like the overall consciousness. I swear to God.
No, it does.
Yeah.
When people start to feel good about themselves in society versus walking around like a little dark cloud, that shit changes. It can change the world. I really believe it.
I think so too.
But that's where I'm going to end for today.
Yeah, I think that's great too.
Awesome.
Great job.
Well, thanks for willing to talk through big topics like this. And I think for me, it can be intimidating because it's such a broad topic and everyone has their own opinions on this. And you obviously see like people who really struggle with their mental health can come at you with like some hard hitting facts and you're like, yes, you're right. It's not always about being happy. Or like there was a podcast episode I listened to on Rich Roll where this guy was explaining the science of happiness. And he's like, it's actually not about being happy at all. It's about being fulfilled and challenged and whatever. So to me, sometimes it can be intimidating, but I just felt called to do this because we've been going through it. Why not talk through our personal experience on it? Maybe in 2 years, I'll be able to come back and talk about this topic again and have way more.
I'm sure we could talk about this in like 6 months, honestly. Yeah. I think that this is good. Like I also get in my head about that is like, I'm not a guru or like some psychologist and I can't speak on happiness from like a scientific point of view at all. Like it's only from our experience, but I think anyone who's listened to this podcast knows that every episode is only from our experience. So that's the decision we make and it is great, I think.
Have you noticed how many times today my eyes have watered?
Yeah.
The fuck's going on with me?
Is it like I noticed that, but when I would be like I noticed when you were talking about like Phil that was happening. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But like even before that, they started watering again, and I was just like, what I was saying.
What is going on? Look at this right now. They're streaming down my face. I'm not crying. I'm just like, I don't know what's happening.
It is crying. Isn't that what that is?
I guess if tears are coming down your cheeks.
Oh, shit.
Woo! Gotta go.
Yeah. Damn.
Anyways, love you, Cowboys.
Yeah,
love
thank you so much for listening. I love you too. Yeah. And I hope everyone has a lovely rest of your day and week and forever.
And get out of your fucking head and get into your body and enjoy your life.
Yeah, and just look around and give thanks for all that you have.
It's way nicer than what I said.
That's okay. I just had to soften it at the end, you know? Okay, so bye. Talk soon.